Hello, and welcome to a brand new episode of Flirtations. Signing on here at Flirt Headquarters. My name is Benjamin. I'm the Flirt Coach and Gay Libra, the host for the show today. Well, all days creating amazing conversations with incredible guests. And the guest today is Dr. Juliana Hauser. We're going to be having a conversation all about some sex, expectations, trust, and accountability in dating. Don't go anywhere. Before the full conversation, though, thank you. I want to take this time to thank you so much for being here, for being a part of these episodes, listening to the guests, the interviews, all the things, and then leaving your comments, your ratings, your reviews. It just means so much. I appreciate all your support. Thank you for being here, and I'm just excited to keep bringing you new episodes of this show. Many new episodes dropping every single week, and the next newest one, y'all, it's coming right now. Thanks for being here. Coming up on this episode of Flirtations, we're looking at the intersection of sexuality, trust, and expectations in dating. Joining us is Dr. Juliana Hauser, licensed couples and family therapist and author of the upcoming book, A New Position on Sex. Dr. Juliana is known as a Sexpert for her decades of work helping people claim their sexual agency and embrace what she calls holistic sexuality, a way of understanding sex that integrates all aspects of the self. Inside the episode, we'll explore how to distinguish between expectations and needs in dating, how to build trust through agency and accountability, and how understanding our own desires can transform the way we show up in relationships. We'll also talk about the idea of accountability in dating and how we hold ourselves accountable first, a big part of self-trust, and why trying to fix others or teach them how to be the partners we want them to be. Ain't it, y'all? This one's all about building trust, the role of accountability, managing expectations, and allowing our sexuality to take up as much space as we want. All right, flirties, let's do this and meet Dr. Juliana.
I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. I heard you wanted to flirt. Hello, my name is Benjamin. I'm the Flirt Coach and a Gay Libra. Everyone has an inner flirt.
Hey, Flirty.
Live, laugh, flirt.
Work the flirt.
Work the flirt. Delulu is the Salulu. Expert on the flirt.
Hey, Flirty. There's always another flirt.
Everyone has an inner flirt. Get out of your head and into the flirt.
Flirties, on the show today, we're joined by Dr. Juliana Hauser, a licensed couples and family therapist and author of the new book, A New Position on Sex, a guide to greater sexual confidence, pleasure, and authenticity, out September 23rd. Dr. Juliana is known as the Sexpert for her decades of work helping people claim their sexual agency and embrace what she calls holistic sexuality. Here to have a conversation with us about expectations, needs, and building trust in dating. Hi, Dr. Juliana, and welcome to the show.
Hi, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you as well, and meet virtually in the Flirt Coach virtual studios. How you doing today?
Yeah. I'm great. I'm so happy to be in this conversation with you.
Yeah, and congratulations on the release of your new book.
Yes, thank you. I'm so excited. It's been a long time coming, and it's really great to be here.
Yeah, we're going to learn more about the book, Sexual Agency, and as we talk about these two big themes in dating, which I feel like I hear about all the time, as I'm sure you do, trust and expectation.
Big ones, yes.
A big one, or two big ones, for sure. But before we get into that, I want to learn a little bit more about you and how you got started in this work and became the Sexpert. Yeah.
Yes. I've always been somebody who had a high comfort level with just the concept of sexuality. I don't know how I got it. I mean, I really, like, in the family that I was raised in, they're awesome, but not as free with sex and sexuality. So it kind of doesn't make sense that I'm here, but in other ways it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And when I was in getting my doctorate, I had one class. So therapists don't have to have any education on sexuality, which is unbelievable to me.
Okay.
To graduate or to get your license. One state, and surprisingly is Florida, requires that you have to have a sexuality class.
Not the one I would have thought of.
It's probably last on the list of what we would have guessed. But as of right now, that's the only state. So and my class was an elective. And when we took it, I was so excited about it. I loved it. I mean, I was on every class, every second in it. I was really interested, and I looked around my colleagues, and they didn't have the same interest level. So my professor took me aside and said, every once in a while, someone like you comes along. You need to be doing more about sexuality.
Wow.
I was also had come between my master's and my doctorate. I went to LA and did acting. And when I was there, I had some really interesting experiences that really overlapped, like who I was as a sexual being personally and who I was learning to be professionally. And in that kind of way, I just started realizing that sexuality was something, not only are we, as we know, just poorly sex educated on even just the basics, but I realized there was so much more out there about what I could learn about myself as a sexual being if I elevated the way I looked at the concept of sexuality. And that's where my work began.
Wow. Really interesting. So what were some of the maybe obstacles you felt like you faced, or you mentioned like this didn't make sense for me and yet it made perfect sense?
Yes. Yeah.
So you could share a little more about that.
Yeah. So my dad was a radiologist and my mom was an ER nurse. And so they saw the worst of everything. And so my whole life was based around not getting me to the ER. And so sex was no different than that. It was off limits. It was very scary. It was all the bad things that could happen. And then just, kind of growing up in the South, that wasn't really something, it was not this hotbed of sexuality. And I grew up in the 80s. So that also wasn't a time period of learning a whole lot.
Yeah.
But I had a really good friend who I call my sexual Sherpa. And she and I had just this relationship where we could talk about sex, and she had older brothers, so they knew all the things. And we had neighbors that had like stacks of Hustlers, and we were just really like self-educated in a lot of ways. But we had to work for it. This is before the internet, so it was you had to ask questions. And I was lucky enough that my friend, the way that we spoke about it was normalizing. It was okay to ask questions. It was okay to be exploring yes or no's. We had differences of what we were doing sexually, and that was okay too. And that was really where the seed was planted of what sexual agency is. But beyond that, the obstacle wise, it just, I think another thing that we were taught, and I think it still is a part of our culture, is that there is sexual currency. So like, how much currency do you have as a sexual being out in the world? Yeah. But also, as we know, like the double standard of, but you don't want to be too sexual. There's a place in that balance of being too sexually available and have a high currency and too high currency, and trying to figure out what that looks like is difficult. And I found for me that one of the biggest things that I had to unlearn so that I could relearn in a way that worked for me was that I kept defining who I was as a sexual being based on other people, and really didn't know how to know who I was on my own. Yeah.
And that makes a lot of sense. I feel like that's how I got some of my just education and awareness about what sex is. It's like, how are you seen by other people? Maybe how are you picked or chosen? How are you validated? How do you give pleasure? It becomes very externally focused in a way, like for me to know, oh, am I good at this? Am I bad at this? Like what do maybe I like or what I don't like, based on just being very focused on what's happening outside of me with the other person.
Right. Yes. Yeah. What was your sex education? Did you have a class, a book?
Oh my gosh. Kind of not much to it. I mean, I grew up in, I'll say the 90s. So a millennial of the 90s, but also growing up in the South, but then growing up homosexual as well. So like I feel like my sexual references were the straights or the representations of gay sex we had at that time. And we were starting to come out of the AIDS epidemic. So there was so much just absolute terror and fear that if I have sex, I'm probably going to die. Right. Like I was thinking about that. I was thinking like, oh my gosh, like there was this, I felt like gay men, and I don't want to say we had the same experience as women. We did not. And yet there was a lot of that slut shaming. Yeah. Right. That if it was like, oh gosh, you have a body count, like, oh, you're sleeping around. Oh, like what's wrong with you? What happened to you in your past kind of thing. And it was like, where did you look? And I felt like a lot of the representations we had of gay guys in the media were the very promiscuous, right? The kind of player types, the very effeminate, the very, like there was kind of only one quote unquote stereotype to look to. Like I think about Will and Grace was really the example we had. And so were you Jack? Were you sleeping around, had a new boyfriend every episode? Or were you Will, who was very uptight, career focused, and couldn't have a relationship to save his life? Right. Well, do I have to pick? I guess I have to pick one or the other. And I guess if I have to pick, I probably want to be Jack. He seems like he's having more fun.
Right.
It was very confusing.
I hear you on that, and you're right. And I would say same but different. Like for women, like really hard to find role models that felt right and had enough variety that you didn't feel pigeonholed. Also, like look at the other two characters in that show too. Like that they also had extremes. Like in them too. Like which one am I? Yeah.
Yeah. And so I'm curious. we're going to get into, right, the trust and expectations and all that stuff. We're going to talk about the list exercise, which you've coined. So we're going to get there. But I'm curious from your work, how maybe women and men are socialized differently when it comes to sex. Like this is something I'm very curious about, as I recently had a conversation on Flirtations about hookup culture and how a lot of us lead with sex now as the gateway to a relationship, which isn't inherently right or wrong, like bad or good. It's just different. And does it actually lead us into the relationships that maybe we're looking for? Yeah. And open for interpretation. But I'm curious, back to the question is how we're socialized differently.
Oh my gosh, those are great topics. And I want to actually, don't let me forget to talk about the leading with sex. I wanted to see what your thoughts are on that too. Okay. But how we're being socialized, it's really, I would say even in the past 5 years, I've seen a difference in this. So my answer has like different sections depending on really what we're talking about and the age group too. Yeah. But I think in general, we are socialized to either be the gatekeeper of who we are as sexual beings. Like we're the ones that are controlling it. And I think that can be, and then that can change depending on what genders we're speaking about who are engaging with this together. But somebody's a gatekeeper and somebody's a pursuer of this. And I think that you can change yourself. You can identify with being one of the other two and how you present yourself to partners, potential partners. But it's often, I think, related to control. So who is in control? Or the word I used earlier, which is like who has the sexual currency? And we're socialized to want to have sexual currency no matter what our gender is. Yeah. And if you don't have it inherently or you're not pursuing it, then you are looked at as an outlier. Yeah. Okay. This is interesting. I mean, some of the things that I feel like would go along with that sexual currency could be money, right? Title, status, height, certainly height, looks, a lot of the physical features that come into play. It's really, it's and
interesting.
Availability.
Yeah.
Like what you're putting out there.
Okay. Yeah. Cause I'm thinking about now it's sort of like, just the classic, the guys, it seems like, when they sleep around, they become like the player types that have the higher body count, right? They're like, yes, like get it, bro. Yeah, right. Like they're getting encouraged and they're getting like really celebrated amongst their friend groups. Right. Whereas women, like in the friend groups, you may be encouraged and celebrated as well. And yet from the outside looking in, you're more likely to receive like, oh God, oof, she really gets around kind of thing. There's a negative connotation to it. So it's really interesting how even if we're leading with sex, it's like not this, we maybe got more acceptance in this way, more freedom to play with sex, but we didn't necessarily get the yes and. Now we're also seen as these fully sexual beings that can make choices and have our own bodily autonomy and are free from the shame and the judgment, right?
I remember 20 years ago when I started focusing on sexuality, I was thinking 20 years from now, this is not going to be what the sexual culture is. Like I will not be talking about double standards. I will not be talking about body counts or any of those kinds of things. Yeah. And it's wild to see how much changes and how much doesn't. Because you're right. In some ways, the way that we talk about sex is so different, and I love it. We have more accessibility to information. We get to talk a lot more about it and more freely. Maybe not on Instagram, it's on social media. We're still getting quite
freaking
censored.
Guidelines, right?
Yes, right. But just in general, in our day-to-day lives, we are talking about it so much more than we were 20 years ago. But in my private practice, I would say when I work with, and this is like cishet men who are like in college or in their 20s, there is a higher level of like an elevated level of speaking about it. This is self-selected who works with me, of course, but so talking about sexuality in a much more evolved way. But what I'm seeing very often with these men is, I know not to feel this way. I know I have the same number, or, I get it, but I still look at a woman, and when I hear a certain number, I have a problem with that, or I judge her for that. And I'm wrestling with that. So to me, it's interesting that in some ways we've caught up, and in other ways we have so far to go of how do we make sense of, if we have a continuum of who we get to be as sexual beings, then how do we relate to what that continuum means in the details of the people that we're meeting, as well as, to ourselves, and that too.
Yeah. A big question that we are going to answer here today, or at least going to try. Yeah. As much as things change, things stay the same in many ways, where it's like, I feel like a lot of these topics exist on these continuums, right? Where like we kind of make progress, and then we sort of, the trends swing back the other way. It's just, it's
and we're seeing quite the swing right now. Yeah. And things do.
Yeah. What, like the swing I'm thinking of is kind of this reclaiming of traditional gender norms. Like, I feel like there's a
sexual
push.
Norms.
Yes, and sexual norms as well. A push to go back to that. Are you seeing?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm here in Kentucky, and really, really feeling it in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But then I also I'm in a month. I'm speaking at a middle school in Kentucky, and I got to speak there last year too. It's a private school, it's a Montessori school, so that they have some progressive forward thinking.
Yes.
And it's really beautiful to see that in a state that has pretty traditional swinging votes here, that I'm able to have free reign for 2 hours with middle school kids.
Wow.
And one of my favorite experiences of that last year was I let them have a Q&A beforehand. So they sent me all the questions. And when I was so excited for the spreadsheet of what they were going to ask me in it. And it hit the whole, first of all, I realized how little they knew. And then it was cute what they're asking. And overall, what it tells me too is we're all trying to find out what it is that we're doing, and what it is that we're interested in. And ultimately, what does that mean to who we are? And it's difficult. It is. It's hard to sort through it, and we don't have a lot of frameworks, and we don't have a lot of spaces to really have it in a conversation that is more than just like a joke. It's really like, who are you? And to make sense of that, of how who we are as a sexual being informs who we are in general, and like the soul of who we are.
Yeah. I'm still figuring it out at almost 40. At almost 40 year olds, I'm still figuring it out. Yeah, I'm thinking of the scene, like the only sex education I got in school was about 6th grade, and I'm thinking of the scene from Mean Girls, right, with the gym coach who's like, "Don't have sex, you will get chlamydia and die. Everybody take some condoms," right? Like that was pretty much it. Don't do this, but if you're gonna do it, here you go.
This is the horrible thing that's going to happen.
Oh my gosh. And of course, like, it's something pretty much a lot of people, I don't want to say everyone, but a lot of people are interested in. And so you're going to figure it out one way or the other.
Right. Yes. We were talking about body counts earlier too. Like when I work with people in the dating world, and especially like when someone's transitioning to like they think they're going to move from casually dating to like they've picked their person and they're going to get into a serious relationship, and if they have a hang up with how they're going to talk about their sexual history or how they feel about their person's sexual history, I believe in the just like bless the people before you. Like that's so great. Like whoever was before you either gave your person's skills that you are going to be the benefit of, or they show them the opposite, and you're getting the benefit of that as well. They're going to see that there was something else, or you get to be the star because they weren't their person,
right?
And they're interesting conversations when someone has a jealousy about what someone's past is, or they feel threatened by it, which is different than feeling like it's not your belief system or your value system. That's different to me.
Right.
But when people don't know how to position someone's sexual history to their own, and no wonder we don't, because we don't know, we're not taught anything about how to position anything in our sexual life. But when we don't know what to do with that, let alone have those kind of conversations, I think it adds a level of complexity to dating that it's difficult in a culture where connecting sexually is a lot more available than it used to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're going to come back to that as we talk about the trust, expectations, the list, and this element of jealousy as well. I think you're just talking about retroactive jealousy. It's like when we want to know, like we're asking like you've been in a relationship before, right? How many partners have you had before? Right? You had sex before, and then maybe you get jealous about someone that you don't even know, or maybe now you try and know them. You look them up on social media. You start asking those questions, like to figure out, do you kind of like live up to the expectations of what the ex was, whatever those were.
Right. Or if they've done sex acts that you haven't done.
Yeah.
And they're jealous of that, and or whatever that means. Or I had people that the person was very sexually active before them, but they're no longer in that place, and they're like, I want that. We're like, where's that person in it? Or when you are changing who you are as a sexual being compared to what your past was, that there can be a grieving for a new partner as well.
Yeah, I've had that experience before. All right, our transition, let's talk about the book for a moment, A New Position on Sex. And I'm curious to hear a little bit more about these two concepts of holistic sexuality and sexual agency.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, how would you describe them?
So I think this is the intersection of my work as a therapist and as a sex educator. And what I really discovered was that holistic sexuality is the essence of who we are. It is the core expression of us, and it is also like the one of the best pathways to figure out who you are. Because our sexuality is one of the hardest things to figure out, and the skill it takes to self-examine and who you are as a sexual being then translates to all areas of your life, because it's such a difficult place, because we're not educated, because there's so much stuff, weaponized within it. So if you take the time and make sexuality be a necessity instead of a luxury, then you really see a difference. And there are 9 pillars of sexuality that I came up with. And when you go through all 9 of them, it's really a 360 into who you are. Because I say sexuality is the final frontier of self-development. And if you look at it in an evolved way, then you really see that who you are as a sexual being is absolutely entwined with who you are as a human. Yeah.
I see that. I'm doing that work. I'm trying my best. It's honestly very, very challenging. I mean, I've shared in some previous episodes on Flirtations, the trauma that's there for me. I mean, the mental health aspect that's there for me, this lack of education and just trying to figure it out, feeling like I'm the quote unquote late bloomer, right? Where a lot of queer people, and this goes across the board for all sexualities and genders, not having that experience when you're a teenager or maybe in college, or you didn't go to college. And so you're just trying to figure it out. And now you're trying to figure it out in a landscape where it seems like, is anyone truly single, right? Everyone's like hookups galore. It seems like that's what it looks like. Although I think when we really get down to it, I think we're having far less sex than it seems.
Yes. Yeah. Well, studies have shown that too.
Yes.
Although every time I hear a study about sex, I mean, everyone lies so much. They either lie up or they lie down, with it. Yeah. And so I'm not really sure how accurate everything is. But I agree that, in some ways, I think there's a whole lot less sex being had compared to like what's being talked about. But it depends on different pockets and where, where people are. But,
sure.
But I agree that, there's always the way that we talk about sex in our culture is that there's a right kind of sex and a wrong kind of sex. But the catch of it is everyone thinks no one's having the right kind of sex except for them, or they think everyone's having the right kind of sex and they're not.
Yeah,
I never meet people who are like, you know what, I'm having the best kind of sex life ever, and I always have. Like, no one thinks that, and we've just we've made sexuality such a divisive element to us instead of something that is so awesome. Yeah, I just saw this TikTok video the other day, and this guy, I don't know who it was. I wish I knew the creator's name, but he's like in the woods, and he must have like a mic stand up or a camera stand up. He's like, you know what? He's like, we're all gonna die. He's like, why aren't we just having sex all the time? He's like, why are we doing work every day? We should be just having sex every day. And he like just walks off really mad. And I was like, that was a fascinating point.
I thought I know maybe who you were talking about. Now I'm like, I'm not so sure. He wasn't with a big old axe, was he?
No, I know who you're talking about. That.
It wasn't that guy. I was like, he doesn't normally talk about that kind of stuff. Okay. But you said initially a guy in the woods. That's where my head went.
The guy that chops wood all the time. Everyone likes. Yes.
Yes. He's become so famous. Congratulations to him.
Yes,
Thorin, if you're listening.
We love you. Chop some wood.
Oh my gosh. Yes, he's hot too. I think we all have a crush on him, and he knows it. He knows it. All right, let's get into some trust here, as I wanted this initial part of the conversation talking about your book, Holistic Sexuality, Sexual Agency, and just sort of sex as an introduction to this conversation. And yet there are going to be all these elements to the sex piece where it's, if you can, to be really in the moment, like to really be in that headspace, even in your body, to give and receive pleasure, right? To really enjoy it. There's might be some elements that need to be in place. One of those being trust. So where do we begin, and maybe opening it more generally to talk about dating and sex? How do we begin building trust with others? It's,
it can sound like a bumper sticker, but it is absolutely inescapable that the key to trust is you have to have trust in yourself first. And so, because that's what erodes when other people hurt us, when we feel trauma, when it is truly that we don't know how to have trust in the world. And we don't know how to then, if we've had anything negative happen to us or experience that, then we don't trust how we're going to handle it too. So then self-trust starts eroding. And then we look at, like, are we afraid of who do we have a good read of people? And that erodes self-trust. And it's really hard that's why a lot of people talk about attachment theory, that a lot of that rests down to like where we are with other people and how we relate to other people. But how we see ourselves is the most important part to being able to trust other people. Because if I can't trust my judgment and I can't trust how I'm going to handle if something goes to hell with, what I was expecting, then it's really hard to put yourself out there to be vulnerable with other people. And what we know too is that I think that the number one aphrodisiac in a sexual exchange is feeling safety, whether it's like someone you've met for 5 minutes or someone that you've been with for 25. And part of safety is having a lot of trust in yourself and trust in the other person or people. And it's hard. I mean, I say that professionally, I say it as a person. Trust is a really great defense. It's a really great way to have avoidance, and it can be a really difficult lesson in vulnerability.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the other part of this question is how we start to build that trust within ourselves too.
Yeah. Yeah. The most powerful things that I see with people and that I do in my private practice is learning how to regulate your nervous system is a skill that I wish we were teaching in kindergarten.
Yeah.
And finding that out. I just saw this really great video of a school in Iceland where they were doing that in preschool. They were teaching the kids how to regulate and how to help each other regulate, which is, it was fascinating to see it. Like they were showing, they were separating, they were doing it by two genders, but they had boys rubbing each other's backs. Like they were like 4-year-olds and brushing each other's hair and learning how to meditate. And if we were learning that at such a young age and we had a culture that rewarded self-regulation, then we would have a culture that is much more calm, much more trusting, but we weren't. If you're in America listening to this, and what you have to do is, no matter where you are, and it's never too late to learn this. And everyone regulates different. There's some studies that show that genders regulate differently, and and that came out pretty recently. And then even everyone has their own system in which to do so, and so you have to start doing self-exploring. You have to figure it out. For me, cold plunging is one of the most incredible things, and I hate cold water at all. I mean, I hate like lukewarm water, but cold plunging was something that it really put it in. I had a mind-body connection finally.
Okay.
But for other people, that would be horrific, and that would be like the worst thing to do. And meditation is the way to go. But I think if you're going to learn how to have self-trust, you have to have two ways of regulating. One is you have to have like in a moment, like what are you going to do when you're freaking out right now? And then the other is what are you going to do on a daily basis to build that self-trust with it. And that makes a really big difference. The other thing is communication. Yeah. If you have access to what your own thoughts are and you know where you are, where you stand on things, and you know how to verbalize that to other people and stay regulated while you do so, you have a very high level of self-trust in that experience. And then agency is the other piece as well. Okay.
So there's your trifecta, regulation, communication, and agency. And I mean, how you can practice this in dating is like, I think sometimes we want to rush the connection. We want to rush into intimacy. Maybe we get impatient, or we feel like, I just want this person to like me kind of thing. So we kind of maybe skip a few steps, or we jump into a situation that we don't want to be in, or maybe we feel like we have to be there. And so something like that I practice is that embodiment, self-regulation piece, and then that communication and agency piece where I've really had to learn to get past the people pleasing, to really just be in the moment and express myself in a way that feels authentic and not do something that I don't want to do, or not do something that I'm not ready to do. And that is how you build trust. Can the other person understand? Can they listen? Can they be considerate? Can they be respectful? Does it become a conversation, or does it all of a sudden become something, oh God, what's wrong with you, right? My ex didn't do this. My last partner didn't do this kind of thing, right? Do they become really dismissive? Do they become avoidant? And so that right away, and you can do that in having conversations that are not about sex, of course. You can do that in situations and settings that are not the bedroom or wherever. And so that's a way that I can just start to see, is this person able to explore vulnerability with me? Is this someone that seems like I can trust in just having a conversation that may be difficult? And that's when I can start to be like, oh, okay, now I'm becoming a little bit more comfortable, right? I'm not just putting blind trust in someone that I met off an app that I don't know.
Right.
I think we jump to those extremes sometimes. I want to trust this person right away. Yes. And that's just not how trust works.
No, it isn't. And it can make you pretty vulnerable to then lose your self-trust.
Absolutely.
When you're going into connection in that way as well.
Yeah.
And it's a fine line between, what is a healthy pace to build trust with somebody and someone building trust with you, and what is, too much, it takes too long to get in it, and you're not going to be able to have a connection.
Right.
And then what's too fast. And it can vary, but
Sure.
there is a generalized way that is the most healthy way to bond through trust and vulnerability. But you said that really, really well. I like doing this trifecta. Another one that's tree of like, what is your relationship between vulnerability and safety, and then have a third on top of it. So like vulnerability, safety, and like letting go, or vulnerable safety and connection. And how you place it. So I'd love it. Like you saw my visual, but I didn't mean for you to see it. I'm so curious what shape would you give it if you had to put, we'll say, safety, vulnerability, and trust? If you were to put that in like a shape.
What's coming to mind is a circle, right? Because I think there's like this like a loop. There's a continuum. There's like a flow of energy where all of these things are connected. And one of the mindset shifts, as we talk about expectations in the list next, one of the mindset shifts I had to make is, and this was really hard, is I'm not afraid of losing somebody.
Yeah.
Right?
Powerful.
Like if my vulnerability, authenticity, honesty, agency is going to mean that I push someone away, or they start to become a more avoidant, cold shoulder kind of thing, then thank you. Right? I'm okay with that. I'm not losing anybody.
Yes.
Right? Because in the inverse of that, I stand to lose myself, which is way worse. Yeah.
That is so great. And I'm thinking of a colleague of mine, Lily Womble, who says you can't say...
Oh my gosh, yes, she was just on the show.
Oh, I love her.
Yeah, she's amazing.
She's so great. So I bet she said you can't say the wrong thing to the right person.
Yeah.
Did she say that? And she said
some version of that for sure. She
phrase.
Had some really powerful statements at the end.
So good.
All right, let's get into some expectations now, because one of the difficult parts of this trust work, the self-trust and building trust with others, is for sure you have your expectations, right? You have your desires, you have ultimately what you're looking for and what you want, but doesn't mean ABC person out there is going to be the one it's going to live up to those expectations, so to speak. So how we can navigate this world of expectations too. Yes.
Oh, because one of the things that we are taught and that we learn is that we need to know who we are, so that we know what we want and what feels right for us. And that's going to be the strategy of how we're dating and how we're going to find like the right person or the right kinds of people. And absolutely, I agree with that. But it can become like a checklist that you're trying to do out of a catalog, and to think that all those things are they're going to be embodied in one person, and then two, that combination is going to work really right for you. And sometimes, like when I work with people and we start looking at who we think who are the characteristics that will be a right match for you, you're like, oh, so it's you. So you're like, you just did a list of who you are, what your characteristics are. And sometimes that's right. Sometimes we partner well with people who have similarities to us, as opposed to things that are really different. And other times that wouldn't be a good match for us. So expectations, I think, are really great, like North Star for us. But they shouldn't be something that we have, that we hold so tight with that we can't have adaptability within them.
Yeah. Okay. That's really important, because I'm sure a lot of the flirties and the listeners have heard about this detachment thing out there. We've talked about it on the show. If they're on social media, I'm sure they see lots of posts about detachment and the law of detachment and all of that. And yet you don't want to become so detached that you don't know what you're looking for, what's important, or what that North Star is. But one thing I find is when you become like so just focused on the expectations, it's like you're trying to fit someone into those expectations. It's almost like you're living in the future or even living in the past, and you're kind of missing the moment, missing what's actually happening. And how is someone showing up? How are you showing up? What are you talking about versus just talking about the checklist kind of stuff? Yeah.
Agreed. And I think a step is often missed, which is like if you are looking, especially if you're wanting to get into a committed relationship of any detail, then I think you have to start with, so who do you want to be? Who do you want to be becoming? Yeah. And from who you are now to where you're hoping to be heading, like what is your level of awareness of who that person's going to be? So let's just say even just 5 years from now, like who are you hoping? And like looking at yourself in pretty much in a lot of depth, and looking at the gap between here and there, and what kind of person in your life can help you get from here to there, and what kind of lessons, what kind of skills. And that answer doesn't have to come just with a partner, but who you partner with and who you're spending a lot of your time with is going to have an enormous impact on that. Yes. And so I don't think that it begins with, so who's right for you? Like, let's do the checklist. I have to be like, where do you think? And I mean, who knows what happens in life, right? Like, it's not to say that the 5-year plan is what you have to have, but if you don't have any kind of view, and sure, we could talk about the details of it. Like, the concrete details of where you want to live and what kind, if you want to have a family, adding to it with children, that those are important, but I'm really talking about like who you are. Yeah. And, your progression as a human is a beautiful place to start.
Okay. Let's do the list now as we're telling the flirties, right? Like, don't have a checklist so much, but also.
Right. Here's this exercise called the list, right?
Have a list. What is that?
So when I was in grad school, there was two of my friends. We sat around. We were all single, and we're therapists. So all we're doing is talking about people and human behavior and self-analyzing and all of that. And I was in Williamsburg, and so Williamsburg, Virginia is a very tiny town. It is not a hotbed of dating life, and so the pickings were slim, and we would go out and realize there were only a couple people. We would all zero in on the same person, or we had to have a calling system, I call it, you tag it first. Right.
Waving at the people that just got off work from Colonial Williamsburg, right? And they're like their pilgrim garb, okay, I guess John Smith's looking pretty good today, or whoever. Right,
exactly. We call him Mary the Butter Maid. So we were talking one day, and we're like, what? Let's just do it. Let's write down, what the qualities we're looking for in a person, and that is not this unique concept. There's people have been doing that for many years. But what felt different about the way we started it was we really gave each other feedback, and one of our friends was like, Can I tell you something that I think you need? Or you're number 9. I'm not so sure you need that. Okay. And it was so helpful to have other people's input on it. So we went through each other and we took turns. And one person was in the hot seat, and then the other two would be supportive of that person. And and that's where my exercise list came from, because we walked away with 2 really important things: a lot of insight that we may have had some blind spots to, and validation to the places where we were really dead on, and the good feeling of having people care about you and wanting you to partner and wanting you to have somebody that is really good for you. Because I think dating can suck the life out of you, and it can also suck your self-worth out of you. Yes. So to have people who genuinely care about you and it's worth it. It's worth it to want the pursuit of someone to share parts of your life with, for however long and how much in depth, that is a really helpful thing. So when I became a therapist, I turned that experience into an exercise, and I work people through it. And it is one of my favorite things to do. I find it to be such a hopeful process. Yeah. And I have the person that's the client who is in the dating hot seat. We do it for 2 hours, and they invite 1 to 3 people to be on the call with us. Wow. And we're like a brain trust for the person. And one of the things that I had them start, I had the person start writing the list of just free for all. And I give them categories that they need to be thinking about. And while they're doing that, I'm texting the other people and I'm giving them the other people's secret things to be doing that the person that's in the hot seat doesn't know about. And one of the things is while they're doing their first part of the list, I have them running a list of what makes them such a good friend, or, what they love about that person.
Wow.
And so we go through this whole and we put that aside. That person doesn't know that they've written it. And we go through the list of, qualities that we think this person needs based on they've already written what they're saying they're hoping to have their life be like in 5 years. So we've already done that base work. And then we go through it and we make a list as big as 25, and then we start negotiating them away. And when we take it down to 15, we then pick up to 3 relationships they've been in, and we use that as a litmus test. And so and everything, when you go through it, like let's say we put, financially competent, and then we say, well, was this person financially competent? Was this person? And we went through it. And if it's a yes or a no, it can't be a maybe. So you have to be pretty ruthless in how you're assessing somebody. And then when you have that list, and we've got like these core 15, and you start seeing why relationships didn't work. You also start seeing what are the ones that are the deal breakers. So if you don't have this, like let's say you have a list of 15 and this person had 14 yeses, but they had this one that was a no, and the relationship did not work. You realize that that's really a deal breaker for you, that you have to have that quality for this relationship to be what you're looking for, and vice versa. You start seeing things. Then we bring it down to 8, and so the list ends with 8 qualities. And it's so hard getting rid of some of the ones that you've just fought for, that you think is so great. And the brain trust really helps you in saying like, yes, this would be nice. Like this would be a cherry on top. But if you don't have these 8 qualities, this is not going to be a relationship that serves you to the depth that you want it to be. And then at the end, when you're like, all right, does this person exist? Then I have the other people or person read the list of 20 things that make them be a beautiful person who deserves somebody like that. And I've never done it that there weren't tears involved in it, because you've done so much work focusing on what you want. You can forget, just like in the dating world, you can forget that you are a person who deserves that. Yeah, I think it's a really nice reminder.
Absolutely. I can see that being a really powerful and emotional process over 2 hours. Then also doing it with some close and trusted friends. Could be family, extended family, right? People that really want the best for you as well, and maybe have that outside perspective of, that one relationship, maybe you're not seeing it quite how it was. Yeah. I want to get in two more questions here. This one about accountability, which I think is a really important part of this trust conversation. And so let's say someone has their list, and then you're out there dating and emotions might get involved, or you feel disappointed or frustrated or overwhelmed, or like something's happening where maybe you start to lose a little bit of focus. And so I wanted to talk about accountability. How can we keep ourselves accountable? Yeah. And then also a little bit of how we can let people be who they are without trying to hold them accountable to everything, right? Like that is such this big part of dating, which I think trips up a lot of people. Like, I find it funny how, right, you said that, like, express yourself, yes, but you don't always need to hold people accountable at the same time.
Yeah, a lot of people aren't saying that. And I'm so glad that you're bringing that point up, because I think there can be this tone sometimes in the dating world of almost like gotcha. Like you're gonna put people on notice and let them know and teach them something, and I think there's a place for that. I do, but I also I love finding the distinction of making it accountable. And you're right. I think it starts first with your own accountability. Are you showing up in your own integrity of what who you know yourself to be? Yeah. And if you do something like the list. Like one of the things I like about having it be a smaller number is if you know that these are the qualities that you're looking for in a partner, then are you able to have boundaries to that? Are you able to, change your energy? Because what I'll say is like, listen, if this is, you can do this and only date people who are on this, who have these characteristics of the list, or you can use this list as a barometer for how much energy you're going to put towards that, which means how much expectations and accountability are you going to ask from a person that doesn't have some of these characteristics that you already know there's not a complete match here, but there's something good. Yeah. And either because it's going to be a fun, interchange or a good friendship, but you don't have to be on the mission to teach somebody what's what in that. Which is different than if you're meeting somebody and there's more vulnerability and connection on the line. Then are you being accountable to what you know about yourself and what you need, and communicating that in a way that is proactive and non-reactive, or as early as you can. And just like you said, like being okay to lose people, and also being okay with being somebody that somebody else loses.
Yeah. Being okay with being, I mean, I know we don't want to, a lot of us, and this is true for me, we don't want to be the one that rejects someone or says no or hurts their feelings. And yet in the process, you're probably hurting your own. You're not being authentic and true to you, and you stand to hurt their feelings even worse in the long run. And so I think this accountability piece, it just so much starts with you and you going about accountability through communication versus this notion that we have to like teach people how to be the partner we want them to be. Yeah. In a relationship, it's a little bit different if now you're sharing finances and you're sharing a household together, right? You might be like, look, stop leaving your dishes in the sink or whatever. That's a little bit different. But in dating, we're not in this, look, we got to get out of this habit of like teaching people how to be the partners we want them to be. Then it's a manifestation of control, right? And fear and a lot of other things coming up. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think when we do that, we are so focused on the other person being right for us, and have less of a focus of how we're showing up for those relationships, and we're losing a lot of opportunities to learn about ourselves and to grow ourselves in that process. And I'm often asked, like, what do I think should be in our sex education? And one of the things that I say is pivotal, and it's relevant to this part, this topic too, which is we have got to learn how to receive no's. We are not taught this in a lot of places, and I think when you are so focused on someone else, and it is just about what you expect from them and what you want them or trying to teach them about you, it is one way to escape from having to deal with the no's in it.
All right, Dr. Julianna, before I send all the flirties your way to follow you, maybe do the list exercise with you and grab the book, we're going to end here on jealousy. Teased it a little bit ago as we're talking about trust a lot in this conversation. And one of the things that can erode trust is jealousy, right? So let's frame it as you're starting to date someone new, or maybe it's a new relationship. And you're having some of those thoughts, like, want to hear some of your thoughts on this jealousy piece.
I think jealousy is a great informer. So I say really invite jealousy into the conversation instead of pushing it away, and say, like, what are you telling me? So what is being triggered inside of me that is making me feel this jealousy? And you hit on a lot of the topics. Is it inadequacy? Is it I'm not good enough? I'm not wanted? Like, I don't recognize this person, or gosh, they're so different. It is invariably comparison. And when you get into comparison, it's invariably that you don't know where you stand on your sexual currency, or you don't know where you stand on your value. And I think that safety is an aphrodisiac, and I think reassurance is too.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And either asking for it, clarification or reassurance, or giving it to somebody. It can only be authentic. Like, you can't, just feed people stuff. But if you, like, I love helping couples have a conversation about positive sexual experiences before they've met. And yeah, jealousy comes up quite a bit, like the thought of it. Or when I work with couples and we're talking about their histories, and especially if they're kind of newer into it, most of their sexual history is going to be about having it with somebody else. And then kind of sifting through. So if you're feeling jealous about a good experience that your partner had with somebody else, what is that telling you about you? What is it that you are wanting? Where is a tender spot that could ask for reassurance? And everyone has a different detail of what that is. Yeah. But I don't think jealousy has to be a destroyer. I think it could be an informer.
I agree. That mindset shift of more so being curious. What is this maybe offering me, trying to tell me, having it be an informer rather than a destroyer? And one of the mindset shifts I feel like I made is, because I used to think if I was jealous that I'm not getting all of these things. Right? So what am I not getting in my relationship that maybe I could get if this person was doing whatever they used to do, if I was their ex, if whatever, you can go into all the hypotheticals, but then bringing it back to the moment, maybe expressing some of that vulnerability. And who are they with now, right? Who are they choosing to be with? Who are they choosing to spend their time with? You can co-create a connection, a partnership, a relationship from this point forward, rather than looking at their past or even your past and being jealous about what you don't have. That can be a dangerous place to be.
You're right. I love how you just said that too. And I think that jealousy also can, we can have retroactive jealousy. So you break up and then you find out the person that you were with is with somebody else, and you look them up and you find out these things and you write the story about who that person is and what the relationship is like. And then all of a sudden you feel terrible about yourself, and you're not going to get reassurance from that ex about any of the things. And so then jealousy it feels really toxic for you. It feels really, really negative. But I think, so what are you sitting in? What is that jealousy telling you? I'm not sitting here in some pious place. I certainly have had to deal with jealousy myself.
Same.
And wonder, so I'm not walking around my house going what are you telling me? Jealousy. Let's just, I love it. Come sit down.
We're not bypassing the discomfort. Yeah.
Right. Not at all. It's a very very uncomfortable place to be.
Yes.
And also, I think it's really interesting to when you can calm yourself and again regulate yourself and hear what is your inner voice saying? Is it regret? Is it a place that you want to change and improve? Is it unfinished business? And I think a lot of times jealousy is that our brain is wired to know answers, to have answers. And so when it can't get a why to something, it will circulate and think it's doing something good for you by problem solving. And I think jealousy, it can be confusing to our brain that we're trying to problem solve when really the answer is, it doesn't feel good to feel replaced, or it doesn't feel good to be compared to, and that someone thinks I'm lesser than, or that I am lesser than. And it can be as simple, profound, but simple as that. And when you can get to that answer, then your brain can be okay, still uncomfortable, but I get it and I can move out. Because where jealousy becomes really negative for you is when you loop it.
Yeah. And we can get stuck in those loops. I know I have.
Yes.
I know I have for sure. But hopefully the Flirties from this point forward, no more of those loops. They know about trust, expectations, the list, sexual agency, holistic sexuality, all the things, but they're going to need more, which is why they got to pick up your book, A New Position on Sex, A Guide to Greater Sexual Confidence, Pleasure, and Authenticity, out September 23rd. Just congratulations as we say our goodbyes here today. This has been a fantastic conversation. Thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much. It was great.
This was wonderful. Where can the Flirties find you, follow you, and pick up your book?
So I'm Dr. Juliana Hauser on all social media platforms. Okay. My website is dr-julianna.com, and I have a newsletter you can sign up for, where I have its own kind of content. And then the book is being sold on all the online platform places, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. And I have a place on my website that you can pick all the links that feel right for where you want to buy books.
Fantastic. And if they wanted to do the list exercise with you, are you accepting new appointments?
Yes. Yeah. I love it. Those are one-offs typically, and I love doing them. So much fun. And I do those. So on my website, there's a place that says work with me. We had the list on there. And I often do it on weekends and weeknights to accommodate for multiple people's schedules. And I don't do it during, I can do it during the day, but most people can't get 3 people together at the same time. So just contact us and we'll get things set up. It is really a beautiful experience, and I highly recommend it.
Fantastic. Well, I'll definitely have the book, the website, the list, lots of links in the show notes below for this episode. Dr. Juliana Hauser, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much. It was great.
All right, that's a wrap on this episode of Flirtations, the sex, expectations, trust, and accountability episode of the program with Dr. Juliana Hauser. Dr. Juliana, thank you so much for being on the show today. Y'all, her new book, A New Position on Sex, out September 23rd. If you're listening to the episode upon debut, that means it's out tomorrow. If you're listening to this at any point in the future, that means it's out. Links below in the show notes for this episode to get the book. Maybe do the list exercise with Dr. Juliana, and her website there for you as well. Dr. J, thank you for being on the show today. And to you, the Flirties, thank you so much for being here, for listening, for tuning in, for streaming, or for watching on YouTube, wherever you are in the world. Please rate, review, subscribe to the show if you haven't already. If you have, thank you so much. Your support for the show means everything. Final thing, final request, please share this episode or another favorite episode of the show with someone you want to share some BFE, big flirt energy with, who maybe needs to hear some of the messages in this episode or another about dating, life, relationships, flirting, all the things. All right, signing off officially here at Flirt Headquarters. My name is Benjamin. I'm the flirt coach and gay leaper. Flirty. Happy flirting.